All right, we're at the point of the board meeting which I wanted to get to, which is a resolution raising fares. And those of us that track this information, a very small group, maybe half a dozen at the most, 10 people, know they're lying through their fucking teeth. We know they're lying through their teeth, as all government does to public. Government lies to us at all levels about everything because they can legally get away with that. There is no there is no penalty for lying to us. It's how you rise to the top of these organizations and these political hierarchies. The best liars get to the top. And nobody does a better job of exposing this than Legal Man over here. I would suggest that you look at Legal Man. This guy. He does a lot of great podcasts about how all of government, all of this shit that we're told is legal is a lie. We're living in a giant crime syndicate. We have a corporate controlled government, which means we are living in a fascist society because once corporations take over control of your government, that's called fascism. So the government is acting on the orders of the corporate masters. In TriMet's case, we know they are acting on the banks. We've heard it 100 times. I'm not going to play it, but we heard the chief financial officer tell us that they're going to lower their bond rating A ratings if they don't extract more wealth from the public. We know that's true. Now, before we continue, I want to look at a couple charts. First chart I'm going to look at is this. PG 14%, 12 TriMet 12%, parking meter 20%, water 6%. I don't think that went through. Rent hikes 10%. So TriMet is definitely part of the problem because they're doing this at the same time all this other stuff is happening. So that makes them part of the problem. Now I want to take a look at this. Okay. Pay particular attention to the payroll tax. That's the payroll tax, $515,000. Okay. This is the tax grab here where they taxed the entire state without your approval. But this is the important part. Tax revenue. Payroll tax, half a billion, I mean, 550 million. And then you look over here, operations, 458 million. So the payroll tax is higher than the operation. All right. Now look at this. General and administrative, 205 million. General administrative cost is half of the operations cost. This is a real problem right here. It's just bloat. This is the bloat. You can't do anything, and the debt service, of course, is criminal. You can't do anything about the post-employment benefits. That's required. Now we don't know anything about this kid. This is what I call this is the taxpayer to private enterprise fund here, according to capitalism. We don't know anything about this capital improvement. We don't know how they come up with it. We don't know who gets it. They make all these executives, but we do know that operations every year are less than the tax revenue, just the payroll tax. And we do know that the TriMet budget is $1.9 billion. And all they're going to get from this fare increase is a measly 5 million. So I mean these things that they come up with don't tell you the story. They conveniently leave out. Like, we know their whole budget is 1.9 billion, but if you add all this up, this is not going to be 1.9 billion here. Okay. So they lie to us, even in their budget presentations. See, this should all add up to 1.9 billion. It does not. You can do it yourself. I've done it. So it's all based on everything they're telling you is lies. And I just want to get that out of the way before we start. All right, let's see what happens.
Earlier, our final resolution, 23-05-21, adopting the fiscal year 2024 budget and appropriating funds, will follow the ordinance section of today's meeting. And so we're going to turn to the ordinance now. And this morning, we have a second reading on Ordinance 374 regarding a fare increase proposal. And I'm going to ask General Counsel Shelley Devine to read the ordinance by title only.
Thank you, Ms. Board President. Ordinance number 374 of the Tri-County Metropolitan.
Please,
Ordinance.
please. Please refrain.
They're chanting, "We the people want to vote," which is completely reasonable. But you don't get a vote. They set this up so that you cannot be represented. Okay, your TriMet, it has been set specifically to keep it away from public accountability. They did this on purpose. They did it with multiple transit districts around the country because it's a tax. You know, all these tax flows, the money that comes in goes to special interests, and they protect that with every straw of their being. They protect these tax cash flows. They're all in on a scam.
Okay. Yeah.
So we can hear each other talk.
I should have waited. Well, I understand where they're at. And they should disrupt the meeting because they do know what's going to happen. They know. Now, you had Ozzy making all this. Well, you got paid to disrupt the meeting. Well, so what if they did, Ozzy? You're the one doing the evil deed, okay? You're the one imposing a fare increase on the people that can't afford it. And you're doing it because the banks are telling you. I don't care if every single one of these people were paid. Because they're right and you're wrong. Okay, if I had the kind of money, I'd pay them. And I doubt every one of these people is paid, maybe some of them. But I also will tell you that they believe in their mission. They're not crisis actors. They believe in the mission.
Respect your constitution.
All in favor of the fare increase?
Good for you. Oh, they cut the mic. Fucking cowards. Let's see how far it goes.
Earlier and
Okay.
safe, convenient.
Here comes Sam's nonsense.
Reading.
Thank you. Mr. General Manager, we had our first reading and public hearing at the board's April meeting. Is there anything you'd like to add today?
So President Simmons, before I get to my comments, I want to thank all of the voices that's here. I want to thank you all for being here. And I want to thank you all for being heard this morning about the proposed fare increase. While something like this is
Looks like Sam is sweating a bit, doesn't it?
never easy,
It's never easy.
I'm grateful that we have an engaged public. one that cares about TriMet
Listen to this motherfucker, man. Jesus.
and our future. You know our mission is to connect people with valued mobility options that are safe,
Here it goes with this fucking garbage that we hear a million fucking times.
convenient, reliable, accessible, and welcoming to all. Our work to fulfill this mission is outlined in our business plan, and our business plan is supported by the budget. Our
Yeah.
budget
And he's going to make the case that somehow this is going to, he's going to make the case, this lying case. Watch.
for the next fiscal year does have a fair increase that will help fund the first big package of improvement.
See, now there's your biggest lie right there. They cut your service. They cut it. And now they're trying to tell you that without this fare increase, we can't give it to you back. You see what they did? They psyoped you. They cut your service, and now they're making it sound like if we don't do this, we can't do our service increase. You can't see they're lying to you. They set this whole thing up. This whole thing was based on a psyop.
For Forward Together service plan.
Nobody asked for Forward Together for a year and a half straight. You said you were going to restore the service, and then you rolled out your stupid Forward Together. You lied to us and lied to us and lied to us.
These are improvements to provide to you, our riders,
Yeah, these are improvements that we fucked you already for the last 3 years, but we're going to improve it. But you got to give us the money for us to do that.
especially those with low and limited incomes. Better connections
No, he's hard to listen to this lying piece of shit.
for more people to reach more jobs and places throughout our region. It calls for buses arriving more often and earlier and later times in the day. It is an ambitious plan
You're a fucking
that seeks
liar.
to increase transit service in our district
Liar.
more than 30% in the years ahead.
In
Yet,
the years ahead, he's a lying sack of shit. They cut your service 22%, told you for 1.5 straight years they were going to restore your service. Then they rolled out this stupid Forward Together. And now we're listening to him make up these other lies.
we are set to embark on this plan at a critical point, given TriMet's ongoing recovery from the impacts of COVID-19 pandemic, inflation, and other rising costs associated with operating our system. That is a huge mountain to summit. And as the appointed stewards of TriMet finances, I know that the board job to address this challenge has not been an easy one. Your decisions today will have tremendous impact, not only on the future of TriMet, but on those who rely on transit services in the Portland metro region.
All lies, all lies. Everything he's saying is a lie.
I would now like to call up our Executive Director and CFO of Administrative Services, Nancy Young Oliver, also our Chief Inclusion, Diversity, and Equity and Accessibility.
Please, inclusion, diversity, equity, inclusion. They just created a whole new department for this guy, and they're talking about fiscal cliffs. Just it's so obviously, that's an obvious fraud for any of us that have been following this.
Officer John Gardner. They're going to give you a final look at what is included in the ordinance in regarding to the fare increase and the mitigations that
There are no mitigations, none. Okay, he's lying about that too. They're saying, "Oh, we got to go more marketing and get more people on our fare card." No, that's not a mitigation. A mitigation is you have a free pass for people who can't afford paying anything. That's a mitigation, not what you're doing. Yours is a lie.
TriMet will put in place should the board adopt the fare increase proposal. So, Nancy?
Clear to the people. Apply for transit infrastructure modernization.
Okay, advance.
Other
Great.
options.
Good morning, President Simmons and members of the board. I just wanted to
Could we ask
reset
the
us-
person standing by the screen to move so we can see it? Thank you.
I just wanted to reset us on our resources. As you look at our major buckets of resources that come in the door, passenger fares and payroll taxes, very specific.
Okay, that should be, see how they put this first? That's a PSYOP. This is way below. This is number, that should be at the top, but it's not. They put it second. That's called a PSYOP, ladies and gentlemen. After you study government for as long as I have, you can see these PSYOPs easily.
Those are the only two resources that we have that don't have federal rules or requirements attached to them. When you look at our federal formula funding that comes in the door, that all has rules, for example, for preventive maintenance. When you look at our state transportation improvement fund funding from House Bill 2017, this also has requirements that we must abide by.
Yeah, that's supposed to go to expanding bus service, remember? So you're lying. I remember what that is. That was to expand bus service around the state.
Along with our state and local grants, when we issue bond proceeds, those can only be used for the acquisition or construction of a major capital asset.
Yeah, you see what they've done here is they've created, as Bastiat says, when plunder becomes a way of life, they create a moral code that justifies it and celebrates it. So they created a structure here which requires these monies to go to certain people by law. That's called a fascist society. They've created a completely undemocratic system, and everybody believes it. Listen to the Legal Man, one of these. Listen to some of his podcasts. He'll lay it right out for you, right out there.
Cannot be used for operating expenses. And pass-through and funding exchanges are those things. Pass-through doesn't belong to us, it belongs to another entity, and a funding exchange is just that. We're exchanging one color of money for another. Advance. I know you've seen this slide in the past. This captures both our revenues and our requirements. The colored bars represent TriMet's major resource categories compared to operating and system costs, represented in the blue and purple lines respectively. The resources include our passenger fares, our employer payroll taxes, operating grants, which include our STIF, Lyft and other operating revenues such as advertising, and then in the blue checkered is the federal stimulus funding that we've received since COVID hit. As you can see, our top major resources of revenues, with the exception of passenger revenues, have continued to increase every year. Our employer payroll taxes have increased every year for almost 20 years. Our federal funding, formula funding, has increased on average 2 to 3% per year, except for those years where we have a light rail system that's been in place for 8 years, and then we generally receive a 15 to 20% increase. Advance.
Increase the TriMet tax.
In front of you, you see a snapshot of our pure fares, and TriMet has lagged behind in the adult base for many of its peers.
Yes, these are all crime syndicates. Now, some of these places like New York, they actually get a substantial amount of their operating budget from fares. It's close to 50%. But TriMet, it's never been more than 20%, even though they say it's been more. But I mean, it's always been a teeny tiny bit of their budget.
We look and we do comparison. We look at those that are subsidized compared to the daily ticket passes, the amount of ridership. You can see that TriMet is lagging. Advance.
They're lagging.
When you look at the fare impact, in 5 years, this will increase our passenger fares by $26.7 million.
Okay. See what they did. I'm going to say it again. They cut your service. Okay, they cut it. And now they're trying to sell to you, in order to bring back the service we cut, we need to charge you. So this is a PSYOP. This is the definition of a PSYOP. They cut your service, but now they want you to pay more to get that service back. At the same time, I just showed you their bureaucracy is half the budget of operating a system, which is way out of control. That's supposed to be 10% of the operating. I mean, TriMet is really no longer a transit agency. They do all this other stuff. And they waste most of their money on stuff that has nothing to do with transit. So one giant psyop.
And it's important to look at it beyond just
And
the
looking
dollar
at anything beyond 5 years is just ridiculous. It's just guesswork. It means nothing. It's garbage.
amount, but to look at it, what does that mean in service hours? It's over 164,000 service hours. This is part of bringing
That doesn't mean anything if people can't afford your service. It means nothing. They're operating this like some kind of capitalist enterprise when it's a socialized enterprise. This whole TriMet is socialism. Okay? You're already paying for it in your payroll taxes, and then they double tax you in the fares. And everybody goes along with it because that's the way it's been. Everybody goes along with everything in this country because that's the way it's been. I mean, that's why we're ruled by pathological criminals. That's why our presidents are like dementia patients and fucking Trump and all the rest of them. They're all criminals, every one of them.
forward together to a realization in our community. Advance? And just as a final reminder, per the strategic financial plan as adopted by our board of directors, we are required to keep a pricing strategy that keeps pace with the cost of service. John?
Good morning, President Simmons, members of the board. I just wanted to clarify some of the information related to upcoming mitigations.
Excuse me. I need to ask you to I need to ask you to refrain from making so much noise that we can't hear what people are saying to us.
So the first mitigation is that although there will be no increase in the cost of the monthly pass for youth, honored citizens, individuals with disabilities, seniors. If you're paying $28 a month today, a year from now, you will still pay $28 a month through fare capping.
And I'd like to know exactly how many of the breakdown of people who actually use that versus how many people are using the system. I mean, how many people are actually using that fare capping? Notice how they've never really told us that. They've never said, we have 20,000 people using fare capping.
Would you say that again?
They've never
Certainly.
said any of that.
So the proposed first mitigation maintains a fare cap on the adult and the honored citizens fares. So if you're a youth, if you're an individual with disability, if you're a senior, if you're on low income, you will continue to only pay $28 a month through our fare capping process. You heard earlier today that there's a lot of work to be done to explain that and get the word out, and that's part of this year's budget. It's the goal of...
Yeah, they're going to do more marketing. That's what we're going to do marketing. See what garbage it is? It's garbage.
Of increasing participation in the reduced fare program. We will also maintain the 50% discount for paratransit trips. We will be expanding access to the reduced fare program.
I remember you're talking, this guy's 250,000, maybe closer to 300. She's the same. You're talking to people who are making 6 figures out of all of this. Every one of these people is making a fortune off of this agency,
Which has already registered over 50,000 people despite COVID and the pandemic. We agree we want to increase.
Okay. So what's 15? Oh, he's got 50,000 low-income fares, I guess.
Participation in that program, and there's money to do that, to market, to partner with community college.
They're going to market. Anytime you hear that, it's just garbage.
In Portland State and many other groups. And we're going to extend the participation in the program to 3 years, mirroring the Honored Citizen Program. And we're going to be working to expand the hot retail network so there's even more places to load fares and get access to cars.
Yeah, sure you are. You lied about that too. In the beginning, you said there'd be all these places. You just lied to us again. There weren't that many.
And when you sign up for the reduced fare program, your first month is free.
Director Gonzalez?
Thank you, President Simmons. Clarifying question then. So if I'm a regular rider right now and I rely on transit all the time, am I gonna be arriving at the cap faster now and less rides than I would be before this change?
That's correct. It will take you only 10 days to reach the fare cap, and you will be charged no more fares for the entire month.
So if instead of taking 12 to 15 rides to hit the cap, now with this change, in 10 rides, I've hit the cap for the whole month?
In 10 days. And if you're an adult paying the full fare, it only takes you 20 days to reach the fare cap, and you will be charged no more using the Hop Pass program.
We should not have to pay for this. Do any of you ride TriMet?
Thank you.
They don't. Is that the only piece of transportation?
So thank you, Nancy and John. So President Simmons, board members, I recommend the approval of this ordinance.
Thank you.
Do more research.
Does the board wish to make individual comments before
Yeah,
we
let's
vote?
hear that.
And if so, I'll start with Director Way.
Oh, I'll wait for other board members.
She's the only one that voted no.
It's easier for me to just go down the line.
I actually have,
Tell her to fuck off. Stop being bullied by her. Why do you keep getting bullied by her? Tell her I will wait. I'm not going to do what you tell me to do. It's because you're sitting there.
I have a question. So I know that we have this ordinance before us, which if the increase were to go through, it would be effective January 1, 2024. But my question was, can we amend the ordinance, or can I, as a board member, introduce, a modification for this to take into effect in a future date? It's a procedural question.
I will yield to our attorney,
Thank you, Chair.
Shelley Devine.
Thank you. And Director Way, to answer your question, the reason we have two readings of any ordinance is because you're passing a law. It's basically the equivalent of a law, and so the statutes that govern that require you to have two readings of the exact same ordinance. So unlike a resolution, which a board member could, raise their hand and say, I want to amend something, and then the whole board would vote on whether or not to agree with that amendment, you can't do that with an ordinance. The only thing you could do is start completely over. So.
Okay. Thank you. That's helpful. I just feel like, I'm ready to sort of have a discussion, right? I hope we could have a discussion before this vote ahead of us in terms of arguments for and against this increase. I have a couple of points that I want to make. First, I think that this is a premature vote that will dampen the future of collaboration, and I mean real and true transparency and collaboration between communities that are going to be the most affected. I say that because we literally just formed a fare subsidy work group within the Transit Equity Advisory Committee that I've been honored to serve on for the last year and a half. And this work group is exploring what are the alternative options for future financing that is sustainable within our budget and our mission. So I feel like doing this vote in advance of a work group that is well-intended, that has service transit-dependent folks sitting on there, as well as folks who are low-income, immigrant and refugee, youth, and seniors. I just feel like we need to put their voices at the table that we're trying to build around this discussion. So that's my... Okay. All right. I appreciate the audience feedback, but I want to continue to conduct doing business. So I appreciate that. And I, again, want everyone to be able to hear all of the points that each of us are making in this decision. The second point that I want to make is that we have some very, very big issues right now that currently need to be addressed, like ridership levels that are being stagnant, like our customer satisfaction being maybe average before we increase this cost of service. I'm really, really concerned that this fare increase is not going to do really anything to address the stagnancy that we see in ridership. I took the MAX, like I said, starting in high school when I was 14, from East Portland to downtown Portland. The MAX and the bus for me was a symbol of, it was a lifeline. It was a way that I was able to get around. And I just feel like when you talk to, it's really sad because when you talk to, I feel like a lot of Portlanders just lately, just people really aren't riding transit as much as they were like back in the days. And yeah, it's due to affordability. It's due to so many different reasons. So I'm really, really, again, concerned at that our ridership levels are not there yet on both the MAX and the bus system. And then, another point is that I don't think any of us are really realizing that public transit is a key problem solver in the climate crisis that we're currently facing. Like we're going to have continued wildfires in our region. We are going to continue to have droughts. This is real, y'all. Like this is a real issue. And I feel like TriMet needs to be a major player in getting people out of their dang cars and onto our buses and our trains. I really feel very passionately that we need to be a bolder leader in addressing climate crisis. And then I have two. All right, thank you. We have two other points. I have two other points that I want to make. I also feel like from the last public meeting that we had a presentation from several of our staff, which again, thank you staff for doing your work and collecting the data. So this is not against anyone personal, but from our own sort of, I think it was a quarterly performance review of like on-time performance and customer satisfaction and all that. It was dismal. Honestly, it was quite sad. Like our on-time performance could be doing much better. But what I gathered from that
Boy, is she hitting the nails on the head.
presentation was that it's a very long time still for people to wait for their buses, to wait for the MEX.
Yes, the system is running like garbage, Kathy. You are correct.
And then I saw just sort of or also an uptick in the number of increase in pass-ups, which happens when buses see passengers and they don't even stop for them. So there's a lot of issues, I think, in our current service and what we're trying to deliver to the public that I just feel like it's not really meeting my expectations, to be honest, as a board member. And then along that lines, we say that public transit right now, the services that we're paying is because transit is a utility, right? That's not my word. That's kind of what's projected out there is that this is a utility, like the gas and the electricity and water. And if I was paying for transit, right, I would expect reliable, safe service, like kind of around the clock, to be honest, as someone who everyone is here is paying into this system. Yep. And so if the service right now is sort of mediocre at best, there's hits and misses in terms of just what is really happening on the ground right now with riders' experiences, then I just cannot ask the folks that are here to pay more for what? Pay more for what?
She's hitting it, man. You go. Kathy Way is telling the truth here.
I just don't understand. And then last but not least, I know that increasing fares is an easy solution, right? It's something that's like, sure, let's just pass this on to the consumer, to the customer. But I will just say that this vote today, if it does move forward, will not create the long-standing impact and change around dedicated, sustainable funding that this agency really needs to address and really needs. At best, it's short-sighted. At best, it'll stave off a couple of $1 million in the next couple of of years, but it is not going to go far, in my opinion. And last but not least, I just want to say that, we have, again, the fair work group that is underway right now. And I just want to put on the record the groups and the organizations that are going to be part of this fair work group to hopefully help inform the board, over the next couple of months, right? Like what the real policy and what the real solution should be. So this is an 11-member work group that includes people from the following: Climate Solutions, our very own Committee on Accessible Transportation members, Ecumenical Ministries of Oregon, Opal Bus Riders Unite, Mount Hood Community College, Multnomah Youth Commission, Portland Bureau of Transportation, Portland State University, and Under the Blood Ministries. And so these are, again, very diverse groups that are serving the populations that, really need the reliable service. And so again, just as one board member, I encourage you all to really reflect on this vote. I don't think that we need to do this right now. It's not the right timing. And we need to really listen to community. So I'm going to be voting with my heart and my conscience, and I'm going to be a no.
All right. Well, I think we need to clip it right there. The one truth teller is Kathy Way. She's the hero on the TriMet board. Nobody else here is going to be voting for you, the people.